In a small, quiet town, there was an old church where people came to pray every day. It seemed like an ordinary church, but there was still something strange and special about it. One of the visitors who came every day was not human. It was a dog. The four-legged friend sat in the depths of the church during the sermon and left after the service. Dogs were, of course, welcome in the church, provided they were well-behaved and did not disturb anyone. So the presence of the beast itself was not the most unusual part of the story. However, the fact is that the dog came alone. It seemed that she had no owner and came of her own free will. Nobody knew anything about her, even where she came from and where she then went. However, she behaved well and did not cause any excitement or alarm. The priest and parishioners were struck by how sad the dog looked. She had a sad look in which you could see a lot of pain and sadness. Every day she sat in the same place, staring at the same point. This is beginning plus to frighten some believers, and someone even began to think that the dog could see the souls of dead people. But the shepherd knew dogs. He owned several animals in his life. It became obvious that this poor animal was just sad. At the same time, a dog of this breed should look strong and healthy. It seemed that the animal had no home. She lived on the street and ate leftovers to survive. Perhaps she came to church for warmth and protection, but the priest could not even think that the dog had come to ask for help. But what kind of help? After the sermon, the priest explained his thoughts to some parishioners and asked them to help him bathe and clean the animal. Fortunately, people agreed and hoped to provide the poor animal with any help they could. The dog deserves happiness, so they slowly approached the dog, who looked at them curiously. It was clear that the dog was not violent or aggressive. He was just curious. When they started bathing and shampooing him for the first time in a long time, he started wagging his tail. The dog looked happy. A small amount of human kindness and interaction clearly made a difference. But while cleaning the dog, the priest made a statement. He was sure that he had seen this dog before, but could not remember exactly where or when. The man racked his brains as the people dried the dog and offered it some food, which it happily gobbled down. The priest decided to put the riddle aside for now. At that point, it was more important to make sure the dog was happy and healthy before it was released again. So he decided to take her to the vet. There, the animal had to be examined to ensure that she was in good physical condition. And to bring the dog there, the man took his old leash on which he kept his dog. Oddly enough, the four-legged friend put on the leash without any problems and even seemed to enjoy the moment. He obediently walked next to her all the way to the veterinarian. And he did not make any unnecessary movements when he was examined and carried out several tests. Fortunately, the results came quickly and the dog turned out to be practically healthy. The veterinarian also checked the animal for a microchip. If there was one, they could find out who owns it. Unfortunately, the microchip could not be found. It was a dead end. They never seemed to know who the dog belonged to. As the man and the dog were returning to the church in disappointment, a boy came out of the store and noticed the priest with the dog. He ran up to the animal, hugged her tightly, and called her Tommy. The priest, completely understanding nothing, asked why the boy called him that. The child replied that that was the name of the dog and that it belonged to an elderly woman in the area. Suddenly, the priest remembered where he had seen this dog before. It belonged to an elderly woman named Maria. The old lady passed away a few months ago when old age overtook her. To confirm his theory, he made a small detour and went to the house where Maria once lived. As if he knew where they were going, Tommy began to pull on the leash and led the priest straight to the old woman's old house. It had to be true. Tommy sat up and looked at the house with glee. Now it was empty and abandoned. But it was clear that the dog had a connection to this house. But the priest had to confirm his suspicions once and for all, so he brought the dog back to the church and went into one of the back rooms where security cameras were installed. The records were kept for 6 months. I hope they will contain footage from Maria's funeral. Perhaps he will see something that will confirm the story and identify Tommy once and for all. So the man began to view the footage. He was looking for the right time and the right day. And finally, he found him. The secret has been revealed. As Mary's coffin was slowly carried into the church, a dog followed her. It was Tommy. The shepherd did not remember him that day because there were too many people present. The dog took his usual position and looked at the coffin with longing, as if knowing that he would never see his dearest person in the world again. The priest rewinded the video even further and was shocked to see that whenever Maria came to the church for prayer, Tommy accompanied her. He walked her to her usual seat and then sat at the back of the church and waited patiently for her to get up. The priest felt his eyes fill with tears. Tommy returned to the same place every day in the hope of seeing his owner again and being reunited with her. Seeing such devotion, the priest's heart broke. So he came up with a plan to adopt Tommy. He will take care of the dog, provide him with a home, and allow him to attend church every day. And although the priest will never be able to replace Mary, he will do everything possible to mend the broken heart of the dog. Thank you, dear viewers, for listening to the end. Share your opinion in the comments and also subscribe to the channel where you will find many more interesting things.